We're on. Okay. Good evening. Uh-oh. Okay, we'll do that. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll do that first. Okay. I'm sorry for the delay, but we'll get right to it. I welcome everyone to the Board of Adjustment meeting Wednesday, December 19th, 2018, and it is exactly 6:40, correct? Okay. We'll call, may we have a call to order? I'm sorry. If we all stand up for Pledge of Allegiance. Da, 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 da. Well, our new board member, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? The flag is right there.
Where is it?
Right. The pole.
I pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. All right, roll call, please. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Thank you. As first order of business, would you like to swear him in? Jennifer is going to do it.
If you please raise your right hand and repeat after me the following oath of office. I state your name.
I, Emmanuel Genty,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Florida,
and the state of Florida,
that I will,
that I will,
in all respects,
in all
You need
respects,
to speak into your microphone.
in all respects,
observe the provisions of the Charter
observe the provisions of the Charter
and the ordinances of the City of North Miami,
and the ordinance of the City of North Miami,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
as board member of the Board of Adjustment.
as board member of the Board of Adjustment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
You are so sworn.
Okay. Just a housekeeping we had to get out of the way. With that being said, Mr. Cook, would you please explain the whole procedure?
I'll go
Or
ahead and
our
read.
lawyer is going to do it. Okay.
So this is an explanation of the quasi-judicial process with regard to the following public hearings. Please be advised that the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. The applicant or duly authorized agent for the applicant must be present. If no representative is present, the application will be tabled to the next Board of Adjustment meeting. When the petition is announced, the applicant or his or her agent shall approach the microphone and state his or her name and address for the record. Any interested party wishing to speak on any item may approach the podium after the board has opened the public hearing. Each party shall approach the microphone and state his or her name and address for the record, shall address his or her comments to the board. Each party shall speak for not more than 3 minutes in order to provide for order and time for other interested parties to address their concerns and comments to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that said, we will administer the quasi-judicial oath for anyone who wishing to talk on any of these items tonight, whether for or against. You need to be sworn in. So,
Yep.
please stand up.
So if you plan to speak to the board, except for attorneys who are not giving testimony, stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth in these proceedings?
I do.
Thank you. With that being said, amendments to the agenda.
If I may, Madam Chair, I would like to introduce our new staff member, Amanda Murray. She just
Hi,
started.
Amanda.
It's been 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks now. She originally came through as an intern, and subsequent to that, reviewed, and now she's serving as the senior planning tech for the city. And also, she just graduated from Florida Atlantic University with a master's in urban and regional planning.
Good, welcome.
Welcome.
Good, good.
With that in mind, Madam Chair, we do have some changes to the agenda. Some have been noted here. We had advertised a variance for Copper Bridge for parking at at a property that is not addressed because it is vacant. That has been removed from the agenda. We also had an advertisement for a variance for the telecommunication tower, which is also on public land. That has been deferred or removed from the agenda as well due to advertising error on our part. To give you the full breadth and depth of it, it was originally submitted as a variance to allow for a deviation in the height, where it's required 90 feet for one user on a tower. They have built a tower of 120 feet. Unbeknownst to me, with further review of the LDRs, that deviation is allowed through the exception process. So since it was advertised incorrectly, we withdrew it from the agenda so it can be reprocessed as a special exception.
Okay,
Those are the two.
thank you. We'll do approval of the minutes. But before we do that, we have 2 minutes to approve, which is August 15th, 2018, and November 15th, 2018.
I'll second.
Just one,
I think I was here.
yeah, we could take that, but on the August 15th, no, on the August 15th, just a minor correction. I do read them.
And I was also here.
Page 3 of 4, where it says motion to deny was made by Commissioner McDermott. So we just need to make sure, because I think they get confused in typing. So board member, you know, you don't want the responsibility, right, Mike?
Was I on this? I think I was here.
Since you're making corrections, maybe you should vote on them separately? Just to
Okay.
clarify the record.
So that would be for August 15, 2018. Was there anything that needed? I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't here.
No. No. Okay, so,
Motion to approve August as corrected?
as corrected, thank you.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now, motion for the November 15th?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we will start with the first case, which is V-05-18.
Madam Chair. So there is an item of board member communications.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
it's been requested that we actually do that exercise tonight because there have been discussions by
communication?
some members.
Okay,
So, and just to make sure the new member is familiar, because these are quasi-judicial proceedings, discussions outside of today's hearing are considered ex parte communications. State law allows cities to allow board members to do that if there's disclosure of those communications. So if you've had a conversation with anybody on any of the items on the agenda, you need to identify which item it is, who that communication was with, and the subject matter of the communication. So you can begin.
any communications from the board?
No.
Yes, I would like.
Go
Yes,
on.
I would like to disclose. I had several residents of the surrounding area contact me and give me. They had received the notice and give me their
Which item?
of the item that we're hearing right now, V-0518, and give me their opinions and concerns about the item.
Okay.
All right.
And I had the same contact.
Is your mic on?
I had the same contact on the same item from various citizens.
Okay.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
None from me.
None.
Okay.
None.
All right. With that being said, V-05-18, special exception for drive-through, 13400 Northeast 3rd Court. And Mr. Cook, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can get the PowerPoint to start. Okay, there we go. As stated, this is, for item 1, it's a special exception to allow for a drive-through for Wendy's located at the address of, Well, it was working fine before the meeting, now here we are.
There it is.
Okay. So it's located at the address of 13400 Northeast 3rd Court. As stated, this is a large parcel consisting of approximately 90,000 square feet, 2.06 acres. Specifically dealing with the Wendy's, you're looking at a site of about 2,500 square feet with accessory drive-through. It's integrated in a retail complex which encompasses in construction almost completed a dollar store, and it has some other commercial uses that will be at the south of the property as well. This item did have a previous review for the Family Dollars, as you see at this site, that went to the Development Review Committee, and it was approved. As stated, you have a special exception here for this evening. I'm going this way, praise God. And this is a special exception specific to Division 1, Section 5-101E. That permits a drive-through within a C1 commercial district by special exception. This is an overview of the area. As you can see, it's indicating the different zones that we have associated with the property. You have to the east, you have a residentially zoned. You have to the north, you have a residentially zoned, and you have to the south, residentially zoned, and you have to the west, commercial zone. These are the criteria that we reviewed the special exception under. With that in mind, we looked at the first criteria. Is the use listed a special exception in the exception where it is properly indicated? Yes. Pursuant to Article 5, as stated, Section 5-101E, the drive-through is accessory use that is permitted in this district by a special exception. There is appropriate provisions for access facilities adequate for the estimated traffic and public streets and sidewalks, et cetera, and safety with traffic congestions. Yes, we believe this is so. The property is accessed from 135th. The drive-through is adequately oriented within the property. It has more than 100 feet of area. It allows for the appropriate stacking distance for the vehicles, so it will not cause any congestions or overflow into the right-of-way or into other parcels that is associated with the site. There are adequate parking areas on the site. Yes, it is. The parking area requires 18 parking spaces. They are providing 18 parking spaces. There is suitable landscaping and fencing along the property. They are imposing the appropriate landscaping and buffering on the site, specifically dealing with the drive-through. They have buffering there, and they have other landscaping that meets the code. The caveat to this is that the required buffering landscaping is provided under a separate site plan approved for construction and maintaining outlying portion of the site, i.e. the Family Dollar area. And the west retail use is going to provide some landscaping as shown on their site plan, whereas the permit includes required perimeter buffering and other planning have been shown in the site plan, and we find it to be adequate. The proposed special exception is reasonable in terms of logical efficiency and economical extensions of public service. Yes, no extension of services necessary such as water and sewer lines are currently available at the site, and so will not need any extension of any of those services to be accessed at the property. The proposed special exception will constitute an appropriate use in the area and will not substantially injure or detract from the use of the surrounding properties or from the character of the neighborhood. We believe that, yes, that is the truth. It will not do any of those things. The proposed special exception for the drive-through will constitute an appropriate use in the area and will not injure or distract from the surrounding properties of the neighborhood. It is located in a capacity and being properly buffered to mitigate any impact it would have on any adjacent property owners, any adjacent properties. The traffic is concealed within the property. The proper stacking has been done for the property to allow for the drive-through, as I stated earlier, not causing any spillover into adjacent property or into the right-of-way like that. So that is why we have said this is an appropriate use. Are there any open code violations for the site? No, there is not. With it in mind, we have the conclusion. We approve this. We recommend approval for the item with one condition. That condition being that prior to the Development Review Committee approval, the applicant needs to provide proof of the cross-access in the with the other properties, such as the Family Dollars and the properties to the south. This is a whole new site. When the applicant gets up, he can get into the specificities of this cross-access and how they are going to orient this property, specifically how they are going to do a replat to divest the property from the other uses, and that is going to spearhead a cross-access with the other properties with that replatting of the property. And that's the presentation as it is.
Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry. Mr. Cook? If you need clarification.
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification. What do you mean when you're referring to cross-access? Can you explain what you mean by that?
So yes. Let's see. So you have, the site is right now is one site, holistic. You have the Family Dollars, you have the Wendy's, and you have a retail use to the site. They're all under one ownership as it is. Mr. Proctor can go into more details. So when you have a situation like that and he's getting ready to replat, to separate it from it, I would need permission from the other property owner to be able to have access to go through and get in and out. And they have an agreement that they're working with the city to do that.
All right. Please state your name and address.
Good evening. Jerry Proctor is my name. I'm an attorney with office at 9130 South Dayland Boulevard in Miami. I represent Abreu Development. Abreu is the controlling entity of Citadel Plaza, which is the property owner of this property. And Citadel Plaza owns not only the Wendy's portion of the property, but the Family Dollar as well. Eduardo Cacachi is with me to my left. He's going to show you the site plan as I address some of the items. And we're both here to answer questions along the way. Eduardo is the architect for Wendy's. Madam Chair and members of the board, we are here, as Mr. Cook stated, under Article 5, Division 1 of your code for the drive-through component within the Wendy's restaurant. As Mr. Cook indicated, this property is zoned C1. It has been zoned as such for many years, and it is already developed in part with a Family Dollar store, which is nearing completion, and a retail building in the back or south side, which is also nearing completion. This Wendy's restaurant, if approved and placed as we hope, will be in the corner directly adjacent to the intersection of 135th Street and 3rd Court. This would be the southwest corner of that intersection, and again, it is zoned C1. This property is adjacent to multifamily Home for the Aged to the east, a 4-story condominium to the north, and as Mr. Cook indicated, a commercial to the west along 135th. 135th is a major artery in this area of the city, and as such, the city has designated it not only for commercial but for transit-oriented development, and we believe that we have a plan and a use that comports with the code, and we'd like some indulgence to go through that, understanding that there may be interested citizens here I'd like to go through it as thoroughly as I can. As Mr. Cook indicated, we have one building, 2,560 square feet, one story, a Wendy's building at the corner of this commercial property. We have a 10-car stacking area for the drive-through that wraps around the building, and as I hope you can see in the site plan, maybe if Mr. Kirkachi can walk it forward a little bit, what I hope you can see is that the building and the drive-through is well spaced from any property line. It is easily accessible from both 135th, and then you have a secondary exit on 3rd Court. You don't have any kind of exit near the entrance near the intersection to disrupt the intersection. We have suitable and really plentiful landscaping along the east of about 9 to 10 feet, about 15 feet of landscaping in the front along 135th, and we have a space of about 55 feet between the right-of-way and the drive-through from between 3rd Court and the drive-through area. We have the swale area, we have our landscaped area, our parking area, a drive aisle, and then you have the drive-through. The drive-through, and I'm going to try to focus on that along the way here as best I can, the drive-through is oriented north and south to the extent that there may be and will be customers in the evening with their lights on. Those lights will be oriented north and south. They will point north toward 135th. They will not point into the residential property to the east, and they will be well spaced from that area. I'll address the question that came up already about the cross-access. There will be cross-access not only physically but in terms of the proper agreements between the Wendy's parcel and the remainder of the commercial property. Those will be done by what the city calls a covenant in lieu of unity of title. That's a provision in the city code that allows commercial properties in particular to have different owners and to have shared parking and shared access so that they function in an integrated manner. They don't wall themselves off from one another, don't create extra drive cuts along the street or do something that would be damaging to the public. This will function as one harmonious shopping center, even though the plan at the moment is to have two property owners once this is developed and finished. When I talk about an integrated development, I think you'll see, I hope you'll see, the Wendy's building and the already existing Family Dollar building are very much aligned with one another, maybe just a couple of feet separate in terms of their relationship to 135th. This is something that the staff wanted to see. They wanted to see the alignment, the shared parking, so that this functions smoothly as really as one unit and one shopping center. And they wanted the buildings to be fairly close to 135th. And so that's what we've done. We have the buildings up on the north side of the property with just one aisle of traffic moving back and forth between the buildings and the right-of-way of 135th Street. We have an area for customers to sit outside and enjoy the weather, an area that I'll ask Mr. Carcacci to illustrate along 135th. It is directly in front of the Wendy's. It's a feature that the staff requested and that we provided to provide some improved relationship between the building and the use and the street. We have pedestrian connectivity between the building and this area. We have our front door along the north side of our building. So this is oriented and really illustrated, and I'll ask Mr. Carcacci to show the elevation in a way that fronts and integrates with the street, has appropriate windows and appropriate scale with awnings and such. And we've made some changes along the way, but this is really essentially as staff has requested.
Jerry, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
My understanding of the application is it's solely
Okay.
for the drive-through, that
Okay.
the building itself, the restaurant, is a permitted use. Is that correct, Mr. Cook?
That is correct.
Okay, so I know you're trying to put it in context, but I didn't want anything to be ambiguous,
Okay.
that the request is for the drive-through.
Okay. Let me address the standards in the code for the drive-through. They are in your staff report. Mr. Cook addressed them, but I'll try to hit the high points. Is there appropriate access? We have one access point along 135th and one along 3rd Court. There is not, and that's for the entire center. There's not a congestion factor where we're putting multiple access points. And we really don't even have any access points within the Wendy's parcel itself. But we're going to have the cross access so that people can get in and out and can serve and reach the drive-through. And as Mr. Cook mentioned, there's 10 cars in the drive-through. They're well spaced from any right-of-way and well spaced from any neighboring property. Is there adequate parking? Yes, there's adequate parking on not only the Wendy's portion, but the shopping center as a whole. Each parcel has adequate parking in terms of the code, and there is cross-access in the event that there is a day of congestion, perhaps a holiday day, where cars that might be visiting the shopping center can park on the Wendy's parcel if they would like. But there is adequate parking individually and collectively for the property. Is there adequate landscaping? Yes, I've illustrated not only the landscaping, but the amounts which are in excess of code, and really the coordination of that landscaping, as you see, throughout the whole property, not just the Wendy's part. Is it an appropriate use in the area? We believe that it is. It's not only allowed by the code, but we think the drive-through is not only an integral component of this restaurant, or most restaurants, but we think it fits very nicely and compatibly with the area. It's well spaced. It doesn't orient in any way to the residential area. It points outward in terms of lighting and such toward 135th, not toward the residential area. Those are the standards in your code. We think this is a good application. We have no problem with staff's condition that we have cross-access. That's been the whole intent from the beginning, and we have no problem with that. Madam Chair, if with the permission of the board, I would reserve some time for rebuttal and certainly try to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that being said, I will now open public hearing. Anyone who would like to speak on this item may come forward, whether you are for it or against it. And please understand that we can only give you, is it 2 minutes?
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. 3? Oh, okay, well. I see it here as. Well, you can sort of like, maybe as the person is ending, then you can come. And since there are 2 lectern there, so maybe one person on this side and one on that side. Okay?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, before they start, I'd like to just make a comment about citizen testimony that might
Yes.
help. So under Florida case law, these kinds of applications are considered quasi-judicial, which means the board has to make decisions based upon the facts presented. The courts have interpreted citizen testimony to be perfectly permissible and meet the standard, which is called substantial competent evidence, as long as it is what is called fact-based. Mere generalized statements of opposition and opinion are to be disregarded, but fact-based testimony is not. So if there's a question about whether your testimony is based on fact or is just you don't like the application, you should err on the side of providing facts that justify your position. Thank you.
Okay. Please state your name and address before you start.
Okay. Hi, Dion Deans, 13390 Northeast 4th Court, North Miami. I am against this building. I guess the permit for the Wendy's itself has been put through, but the drive-through is the one thing that's stopping this from happening. Hopefully, we will stop it from happening. Fact is, the fact that there's a Wendy's stuck right in between two schools, when we're battling childhood obesity, and we have a school within a quarter of a mile walking distance to one school, and a quarter mile to another school, is very strategic on their part, mind you. Great for business, not great for our children of North Miami. I think we should be focusing on our children, not on the dollar. Because at the end of the day, what are we going to have? We're going to have sick children. I don't care about Wendy's. I care about the children. We have, okay, in England, they're banning the buildings of these fast food restaurants for that exact reason, because they care about their children. You are not allowed to build a fast food junk restaurant within a quarter of a mile of any school, and that's going into effect as fact the fall of 2019. I have lots of opinions at this point. I guess I can't say them, so I'll keep them to myself. But obviously, I believe traffic is an issue. People are going to come from all over, every direction. There aren't the proper turns. The reason you probably don't have the ordinance for the drive-through is because it's not meant to be a fast food restaurant. They shouldn't be there. I mean, there's enough of them. Put something healthy there. Think about the children. Think about everybody in that neighborhood. This is just, I just think it's just a very, very, very bad idea. You know, think about us. Think about our children. Don't think about Wendy's. They'll be fine. Wherever they go, they will be fine. So let's think about us and our children of North Miami. Thank you.
Ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Eileen Bicaba. I live at 13350 Northeast 3rd Court. I am the closest resident to this construction. I've lived there for more than 20 years, that's a fact. And we were completely surrounded by empty land, which I completely understand is there are going to be changes and there are going to be development. However, I do believe that it should not infringe upon the surrounding community. All right? Now, there is now a large wall near my building, near my house, and that wall separates my property from theirs. I disagree with the city's opinion or that there is adequate traffic control for this reason. When I first moved in, we were allowed to make a left turn onto 135th. It is a fact that today we can't. And the reason we can't is for two reasons: an increase in traffic and an increase in accidents. Being the first house at that location, I hear all the banging of the cars at that location. And the city has done, and the development and the county has done nothing to change the traffic flow there. You still can only make a right turn from 3rd Court onto 135th. How can you possibly put a major development at that location and tell me that it's not going to affect traffic on my street? I live right next to them, and they are doing all the construction, and there are times I have problems leaving my driveway and trying to back out right now, and they haven't even opened. Now, number two, Fountainhead is right on the, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the location. Fountainhead is on east of the 135th, of 3rd Court. and the new development is on the west of 3rd Court and 135th, all right? We currently have trash and all kind of problem flowing from the fountainhead into our yard. So please don't tell me more development that doesn't cause any of that change is not gonna come into, it's just more that will bring more trash into our area. Now, in terms of the traffic and the light, there is no light there. All right, so what do you think are the people are gonna do if they wanna go west on 135th? They can't go west from 3rd Court. They can't go west from the development. That's a no left turn area. They are gonna come down 3rd Court in order to do it and go through the neighborhood.
Wind it down.
Okay, it's very clear that's what they are going to do. 3rd Court is a very small street. It only runs from 131 to 135. My daughter grew up on that street, and now we're going to have that problem.
Okay.
Speed. You put speed bumps on 4th and other areas, and not on our street, so the traffic is being diverted to our street, so keep that in mind.
All right, but we got to wind
Thank
it
you.
down. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, keep it down. Come on, guys, because we're wasting time that way.
Hi, Faraz Jarwa. I live on 3rd Court, 13310 Northeast 3rd Court. I feel a lot of attention is on 135th. Honestly, we live on a very small street, not lit, no sidewalks. I can't even walk my dog. Sometimes the flying car would come through. So I understand the idea, but there is an exit from this shopping center on 3rd Court. I would not believe that would not create major problems, more accidents, traffic congestion on our street. We have barely any lights at night. You can barely see anything at night. There's like maybe 3 lights on the whole street. Very underlit, and traffic is going to be a major problem. Definitely against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Teresa Lewis. My name is Teresa Lewis, and where I live is actually facing...
Address.
Oh, 13345 Northeast 3rd Court. And where I'm living is actually facing the business. And what happened is that practically every week there's an accident right there. And I always rush out to the gate. Even last week there were 2 cars. And I'm not saying because I know that a lot of people, it's going to be convenient for a lot of people that live close by. I'm not saying that. You know, we're just saying that if we just need this to be in control, we've got to have it controlled, and we know we're going to have a lot of noise. And like I said, we know we're going to have a lot of litter, people throwing, you know, so it's going to be very bad for us. But if I can see an accident once a week, I can imagine when the business is open what it's going to be. And that's what we're asking for, just to control the traffic. So I say.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, Carmelo. I live at 12530 Northeast 4th Avenue. So
Full
I am
name?
close.
Full name?
Carmela Furman.
Thank you.
I live close to the area where the Wendy's is planned. I'm on 4th Avenue. But I just wanted to bring to light a few things, as well as basically reiterate what everyone has said prior to me coming up here. I have about 15 fast food restaurants within a 4-mile radius of where I live. There are 2 Wendy's already within 4 miles of that radius where I live already. I think a drive-through is going to create, like everyone has said, traffic, because it's not just 135th. It's our whole neighborhood is used as a shortcut for everyone. Everyone speeds from 135th to 125th. People are speeding from Northeast 6th to like get to 4th to get to 125th to go, you know, it's just people are crossing our neighborhood, and I work from home, so I see it all day. Also, trash. I'm always picking up McDonald's, Taco Bell, Dollar General, Presidente, constantly. So that's not going to get any better. I mean, I'm out there cleaning up trash basically every Tuesday, as the North Miami program has created a cleanup task force. So participating in that. And I also think that Wendy's late night menu is going to be an issue for the neighborhood. I mean, they're open till what, 2 a.m., 1 a.m.? So I don't think any of us would appreciate that Monday through Friday or Saturday and Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name's Celeste Davis. I live at 430 Northeast 132nd Terrace. And I just want to support my neighbors because I have many of the same viewpoints, that the Wendy's has a late night drive-through, which directly is addressed by having the drive-through there. So we're talking about late nights, and you do not easily access 135th Street. I know because I have a hard time trying to turn on 135th, and I don't. And so we're talking about late night traffic that is going through what is a residential area that we'd like to stay quiet, not noisy, and not trashy. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Kivett. Live at 13241 Northeast 3rd Court. I rent from a homeowner who owns 2 properties on that street. In fact, he's highly disappointed that this has even been tabled. He wasn't aware that there's a meeting, so he's unfortunately not able to attend. In fact, we have families that have children that live on our street, young children that play in the front yards. I have family and friends that visit from time to time. They bring kids as well. Because there are no speed bumps on our street, traffic has a tendency to come speeding through there. And this is necessarily going to mean more traffic, which is more dangerous for our kids. I noted that there was an analysis. I'm not sure who conducted the analysis. I would suggest that it's highly speculative that the sewage and traffic systems are sufficient to sustain the additional traffic and additional sewage issues. Thank you.
Okay, Jose Rivera, I live on 3rd Court.
No,
The gentleman-
full address, full address.
13325 Northeast 3rd Court.
Okay. Thank
The
you.
gentleman stated that traffic isn't going to be bad. It's going to be horrendous. You're going to have traffic coming from the east, and there's no, you can only make a right. So they're going to try to come down that street to come into the exit they put on 3rd Street. And that's, to me, that's the biggest entrance and exit that they have. I come from Memorial Highway when I get off of work, and it's a nightmare already. Now you're gonna put a Wendy's with a drive-through, and then you got a dollar store. You're creating havoc on my street, where I've been there 25 years, and it's been nothing but quiet. I have my neighbors, their kids play out there in their lawn, have a good time, and now with all this traffic, isn't that a little dangerous for the kids now, that they can't even play on their own grass out there? It's horrendous. I don't understand why you want to put a Wendy's in a residential area and create even more havoc on the streets. He's wrong. He don't live on my street. He stands up here and he says what he says. Oh, we got this and the traffic is going to flow by. We've been looking at these statistics and this. He don't live on my street. He don't see me come home every day and what I got to wait on the light to change of all the traffic that's there. If I'm the 5th car, I got to wait 2 times just to make a left. So you don't think people are going to go down Memorial Highway at the stop sign, make a left, go down to 3rd Court, and come up. So I'm going to get hit from that end and from 135th Street.
Okay.
And like I said, my neighborhood has always been nice and quiet, no traffic, nighttime. You go outside, it's quiet. The only people that come by are the people who live in my neighborhood. I think it's wrong to put this Wendy's there.
Thank you. Hold off. We're wasting time. And before anyone else speaks, because I know a few of you have come in, if you didn't take the oath, please make sure that you take the oath before you say anything on the item.
Sir, you can lift the microphone up.
Good evening.
Anyone who did not take the oath, who was not here when the oath was administered?
Raise your right hand. Anybody else who hasn't been sworn in? Do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth in these proceedings?
Yes.
Thank you.
I knew there was so much. Okay. All right.
Good evening. My name is Victor Vigano, and together with my girlfriend Lori Langrib, we bought a house on 3rd Court, actually 131st Street.
Full address?
3rd Court, 385 Northeast 131st Street.
Thank you.
When we moved in, we did not expect the urbanism to develop the way it did, and I think that Wendy's, but more specifically the drive-through, would be detrimental to our feeling of residential in the area. We did not expect it to be more congested for all the reasons that everybody already stated. More traffic. There's already a lot of accidents in that corner. As the lady was saying it, almost every week we see it, probably even more often. The fact that there is an exit or entrance on 3rd Court, detrimental. It's a residential. I understand that it's allowed, but this is an exception, and I don't think it will be acceptable. It goes into the evening, into the night. Everybody would like to keep a nice sleep at night, and if it goes into the evening, into the night, cars driving around, once again, not residential. And the kids, the children, I mean, to school, all that obesity problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And I see a lot of residents out there who'd like to speak, and I hear it, and I understand free speech. We come out there, but in the essence of time, because it seemed like everyone who comes up, they're basically saying the same thing, and I just wanted to ask: was there anyone who had something a little bit different to add to what's already being said? Okay, all right.
Jim Garrett, 11610 North Bayshore Drive. On fast food establishments in this city, I'm going to go back historically. When Wendy's first came here, they wanted to first come on at 6th Avenue and 135th Street. Because how I know that was my math teacher, Jim Sickler, had all the parents on open house night upstairs in his math class trying to raise the $25,000 for the franchise fee. So it was supposed to go in that empty lot. Second, they decided to go on Biscayne and at 123rd, off of Biscayne, right next where Old Crippin' used to be, the round table. They did go there. The loudspeaker, when it was put in, the drive-through, it was heard in Keystone Point down 124th Street. Has anyone thought about the loudspeaker at this place at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning going into a residential neighborhood? Number 3, you're talking about an intersection where the roads go different ways, and a local K through 8 school, what used to be the Knights of Columbus, but now is Raul Martinez Espira School, and you're talking about the traffic around that school in the morning and in the evening. What we're doing, we're adding more to the congestion. It's going to spill into the residential neighborhoods, or even into Bree-Swept. We're going to have probably an increase in the police presence out there after 11 p.m. to about 3 a.m. Has anyone looked at that? Or 7-Eleven on 6th Avenue and a McDonald's there, and or Burger King on 123rd Street. Has anyone looked at what a fast food restaurant does in this city and how it impacts this city? And the noise and the traffic. That's my conclusion. I don't think this is proper for North Miami. This is not the industry we should be going for. We should be preserving our residential neighborhoods, and we should be attracting different types of businesses in this city that brings in employees that make real money. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Renee Bicava. I live at 13350 Northeast 3rd Court, which is the closest building to the Wendy's. I believe that no one has mentioned the fact that the nursing home, there are always ambulances going through there because of the elderly people who live in that area. And the fact that the Wendy's will increase traffic there and you'll have ambulances coming through, that will be a major problem that no one has brought up or considered yet. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Hill. I live at 13075 Griffin Boulevard. I live on the corner of 131st and Griffin, which is a rock's throw from this development. And this is not a commercial area. The entire area is residential. All the street I live on, all the way from Northeast 6 all the way down past Aspera, that is all residential neighborhood, and it is horrendously planned. And so this development sits there. There is, if you come west on 135th, there is no turn lane to go left into this space. And you can say you're going to put a double yellow line, but if you've been to the Northeast 6 Publix,
They don't care.
everybody cuts right over that double yellow line. And they're going to go, and they're going to stop and back up traffic all the way down that lot. On the flip side, everybody cuts through our neighborhood. Everybody does, because nobody wants to wait on Northeast 6 or 125th or 135th. And if you've been to the that Ross parking lot, the Ross on Biscayne and 125th, and you see there's a Burger King in that parking lot, and if you've ever tried to go there for something simple, you can't. There is not a parking spot, and you cannot get in and out of that space. It's a nightmare, and that is exactly what they're setting up to do here. There's a reason why they want an exception for a drive-through. They're going to create a turnstile of cars that come into our neighborhood like this, and you should vote no on it. It's not supposed to happen. This is the wrong development. It's the wrong place for that. Please vote no.
Okay. Thank you. With that being said, anybody else? Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Board discussion?
He wanted some rebuttal. Yeah.
Rebuttal? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jerry Proctor again. As everyone knows, any development on this property or any property creates certain impacts. And you know, what I asked the board to do is heed the words of Mr. Held at the beginning of the presentation. I happened to pick up a brochure out front as I was waiting for the chambers to open, and one of the headlines, it was a brochure about quasi-judicial hearings, was that zoning is not a popularity contest. I respect the folks that have come, but I want to break down and go through a couple of their comments and try to put some context on this with respect to them and with respect to the board. Access. This Wendy's, which as Mr. Held reminded me and the board is the only subject of this hearing, is not adding any access points. The access points have been placed and approved by the city for the shopping center. We have a development proposed in front of the board that is not adding any access points along the street, either 3rd Court or 135th Street. It's going to use and fit compatibly with the existing access points that have already been approved by the city. Where is this property? Again, the Wendy's. It's a minimum of 110 feet from the nearest single-family neighbor. And I hear that there are a number of neighbors that live on 3rd Court that are here. The closest one, who, if I got her name right, is Ms. Mercado, and if I didn't, I apologize, her property starts a minimum of 110 feet south of the Wendy's property. Not the Wendy's building, not the drive-throughs, the Wendy's portion of the property. So you have a separation here, and you have and what does that mean? You have a separation that allows the board and the city to consider more favorably these impacts, because we do have impacts. The issue of trash. We have to comply with city regulations, and we will comply, and for this restaurant and for the drive-through component. This restaurant, or the Wendy's, is not open for breakfast. They typically open at about 10 a.m. and close at about midnight. You don't have a drive-through at 2 or 3 a.m. Those are the typical hours, and I think the hours in this case, for Wendy's. You don't have something in the middle of the night. This is a compatible use. It's a very small building, and the drive-through component fits very neatly within the property. It doesn't spill out into the community. It doesn't add backup of traffic, backup of noise, or anything of that sort. And I illustrated earlier where the drive-through is within the property in relation to our neighbors. Just a couple of other points. Perhaps stating the obvious, there's no regulation in the city, there's no spacing requirement or limitation or prohibition on so-called fast food restaurants or restaurants in terms of their proximity to one another, their proximity to schools, or anything of that sort. This is a permitted use. And what you're going to have on this corner, if you don't have Wendy's, you're going to have a permitted commercial use. We believe that this use is compatible. It is very, very well spaced from our neighbors, the neighbors that have come tonight and the other neighbors who live and own property on 3rd Court and the areas around 3rd Court. We have no problem stipulating as a condition not only the cross-access that we discussed earlier, but the hours of operation that I just mentioned, or any other reasonable conditions that the board wishes to impose. We believe that this is compatible. We believe it's well spaced from our neighbors. And we ask, as Mr. Held indicated in the beginning, to look past while considering the comments of the community and look at the comments and the standards in the code. I'm going to pass forward for the record some of the transit-oriented development standards which we meet, but I'll go back to the standards for the drive-through. We have adequate access.
We have them up. We have it up here, sir. Thank you.
Pardon me?
We have them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just would direct you then to the staff report. We believe that we're in compliance with the code. We don't believe, with respect to the community, that any of the testimony that has been raised illustrates issues that bring about an inconsistency with the code, and we would ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I before I go back to the board for their discussion, Mr. Cook, we've already closed public hearings, sir. Mr. Cook, if you can, again, possibly explain to the folks who are in here, because it says C1 district, because I want to make sure that we're taking and we're making our decision objectively and not subjectively, so that when we hear the term, it is within code, it is this, and I hear people say, well, you know, it's a residential area, and can we get a brief description of what the C1 district is, and in that particular place, you know, where the boundaries are?
Can we get the PowerPoint back up, please? Thank you. So as this map illustrates, all that in the red is what we refer to as C1, which is a commercial zone district. So all that in red is commercial. So that allows for
most
retail,
type of businesses,
shopping centers, car wash, It could allow for entertainment to take place there. So to the point of the audience, the provision in the code is to allow for a drive-through by special exception. This is not specific to this zone district. This is pretty consistent throughout the city. If you have a drive-through, you need a special exception to do it, irrespective of your use. If you're going to have a drive-through associated with it, that is, if you have a pharmacy and you want to have a drive-through, you don't need a special exception to have it. Or a bank. That's just with the, as Mr. Held earlier stated about the Wendy's use in of itself, the restaurant use specifically is allowed by right. So that's where we are.
Thank you. All right. Board discussion.
Would you like to start? You have any questions?
Good evening, everyone. The attorney, your name is Mr.
Mr.
Cooks,
Proctor.
Mr. Proctor. You can stay. I just want to make sure I got your name correctly. You made some mention as far as some times. I just Googled on my phone, and all the Wendy's closed between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and this was within a 5 to 7 mile radius. In addition to that, majority of the Wendy's now serve breakfast. They're opening as early as 9 o'clock in the morning and some at 6 o'clock in the morning. So when you say that the restaurant's not going to be open past a certain time, the information is just not factual. In addition to that, I know he just explained the C1 and anything can come there, whether it's a bank, whatever's requiring a drive-through, it's going to be a special exception. I utilize that LA Fitness on Biscayne Boulevard, and I tell you right now, sometimes traffic is jam-packed to get into the parking lot of LA Fitness because people are lined up trying to get some food. I mean, these reports come out, you guys give your opinions and you guys give facts, but reality is reality. I mean, you can put something on a piece of cardboard and say, yeah, this is what we hope that it will be based on the circumstances. But when it actually happens, we tend to find out that that's not the case. Fast food restaurants, and like I said, it's already been, this is just for a special exception, but just to note that fast food restaurants tend to bring other fast food restaurants. I mean, over the last, I want to say, couple years, it's Wendy's, Wingstop, and every corner it's a fast food restaurant. Although there's rules in place to control trash, trash is always a major issue. I mean, there's trash bins out there for me to put trash in. Now, whether I
do what the application is, which is
yeah, I'm going to stick to the application, but I mean, if we were talking about a bank, then it would be a different question. We wouldn't be talking about trash.
Yeah, it'd be 9 to 5.
It would be 9 to 5. So I think I'm pretty consistent with what we're talking about. That's pretty much all I have for now. I'll pass it on.
Me?
Go ahead.
I'm looking at this layout, and I can't figure out how anyone is going to enter on 135th Street, because it's not laid out on the map here. So could someone show me how the traffic is going to enter this place, and where is the traffic going to exit?
Only a right turn. They could only do a right turn.
It's on this page right here. I thought it was where they were.
Right, where the,
Yeah, so it's on this page. It comes in on this side of Family Dollar.
right.
So
Madam Chair, I'd be happy to address the question.
Just point it out on
is
that
this
page.
correct? The entrance on 135th comes out on this side of Family Dollar. That's the
That's
main
correct.
entrance to the entire plaza.
That's
and
correct.
then the
And-
other exit or entrance is on Northeast Third Court.
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's what I thought.
All right. My next, now, is it an entrance and an exit on 135th Street as well? I mean, or is it just an entrance and everyone's?
They could only come in?
Right turn in, right turn out. Entrance
Okay,
and exit.
right turn in, right turn out. Okay. My biggest problem is the noise and the trash, and especially if you have these cars coming in and they're gonna drive right out, and I've seen it time and time again, they throw their wrappers out the window. The fact that that is a residential area on Northeast Third Court, to hear the noise when you make an order, can I help you, over and over and over again until midnight and beyond, I really have a problem with it. If we're going to even have the Wendy's there itself, is there some way we could put traffic speed bumps on that street?
County doesn't allow traffic speed.
Oh, it doesn't.
On Northeast Third?
On Northeast Third?
The county does not permit speed bumps to be put in place any longer.
We've tried.
Any longer,
Any
because
They've, the ones
there
that
are
are here
streets
are
along that
grandfathered
have
in,
it.
but now
Okay.
they're not
Well,
permitted, from my
perhaps can we
understanding.
close off this Northeast Third Court exit? I mean, is there any way?
Enforce something?
You know, the problem with that is that if we were to close off for hypothetical Northeast Third Court,
Yeah, they all have to go down.
it's Poppamole, because we would be diverting the traffic then through Memorial Highway, Griffin Boulevard, and 131. And so when you consider closing off, even though this isn't a realistic option, I'm sure, because there's also county regulations against closing off streets, and that's its own.
Well, I'm not talking about
It's
closing
not
off
closing-
the street.
closing
it's
off
closing the center.
The
Close off-
exit.
Oh, the
entrance
exit, and then
exit.
just having
And then just one-
135
yeah.
be the entrance and the
And they
exit.
won't be going down Third Court and throwing the
That's a-
garbage out.
Madam Chair?
All right.
Mr. McDermott,
Okay,
are
go
you
ahead.
Oh, I'm
done?
sorry.
No, I guess I'm done.
Mr. McDermott?
Through you, Madam Chair, can I ask the attorney of record?
Mr.
of-
Proctor?
Mr. Proctor,
Uh-huh.
two yes or no questions. One of the people mentioned the Burger King in the plaza over on Biscayne Boulevard, and it is truly a nightmare.
Oh, it is.
And, you know, this is more than just a dollar store. There is a whole line of stores behind the dollar store that are going to be full and creating a lot of traffic in and of themselves. So my question is twofold. Number one, have you done any traffic impact study on this area? That's number one. And the second question is, and I know you may not be able to answer it, but being of the attorney of the record, perhaps you would have an indication. If this drive-through was not passed by the Board of Adjustment tonight, will the Wendy's still open?
Through the chair, to your second question, I don't know. I highly doubt that the Wendy's would place an outlet there, but I don't know for sure. In terms of the traffic, the proposed proprietors, reviewed the traffic counts in the area, the rules of the state of Florida and the city, and they've reviewed the traffic patterns and the traffic flows and the traffic counts in their preparation for this presentation and in their preparation to have a real estate transaction and possibly buy this property. They have reviewed those items. I can't tell you that they have done a specific traffic study. The city has not required an hour-by-hour study, but they have looked at the traffic patterns and volumes in the entire surrounding area.
Thank you. Mr. Cook?
If I may, Madam Chair, this item requires review by the Development Review Committee. That is the Wendy's itself, and at that level, we do have a traffic study that they would need to submit as part of the review process before we would allow for the approval and move to the permitting for building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have several things. I wanted to-
Go ahead. Hold on. Ms. Hill?
Yeah, one of the things that was brought up and Michael just brought up is the fast food situation at the Ross, TJ Maxx, Walgreens, Office Max, Five Below, Burger King, Denny's, Complex. There was a time at some point where Burger King must have come to the city of North Miami to ask for a drive-through variance as well, and reassured everybody that there would be sufficient parking, that there would be no effect to the traffic flow on 125th or on Biscayne. And I'm sure that they brought their boards and all of their data. And yet when you go into that plaza, it's a nightmare. It takes hours, or it took me about 25 minutes the other day to find a parking spot.
And I'm sorry, I've been there, here, and I'm not defending anybody. But to be fair to Burger King over there, the TJ Maxx and the Ross, they came, the
But
Five
bear with me
Below,
while I
they
finish my
came
point.
way after.
Can I finish
Okay, go
my
ahead.
point, please? My point is that this is very similar to that development in the sense that you have quite a few retail spaces and uses, and all of those do attract their own parking. And so when you're bringing a drive-through in, it exacerbates a flow in a small area, and that's what I'm very concerned about in this area. I don't quite feel that the flow that you've given us in your sheets alleviates concern that, first of all, on 135th is one of our biggest arteries in our city, and the hours of operations of this Wendy's the demand coincides with heavy traffic. So you have a lot of people coming in, coming off from work, leaving the city, going to go through this drive-through, and as somebody said, try to get in. And where's all the other cars? Well, they're waiting to turn into the parking lot. 135 is going to have a stacked flow of cars just waiting. And that's already the case now. So if you're saying it won't be the case then, you can't change what it is now by adding more stops and more delays. The other thing is that one of the criterias in evaluating this special exception is, will this special exception constitute an appropriate use in the area and will not substantially injure or detract from the use of the surrounding property or the character of the neighborhood? I am thinking critically about this, and I see a lot of negatives brought in to the neighborhood in terms of Northeast 3rd Court and the quality of life. But I'm not seeing those negatives mitigated by anything especially positive by bringing in this drive-through. I thought the point of it being located between two schools and really being the only food establishment in between those schools isn't exactly a desirable thing to mitigate the negatives that we're already seeing with the hours of operation and the traffic. So I'm having a hard time seeing how this would actually benefit the area. And as my fellow board members said, it's sort of a Pandora's box, because if we allow this drive-through and the next fast food company comes to us, we'll have to do the same thing. Do we as a city intend 131st, this area of 131st, to become an area with a lot of fast food options? Is that our intention? Is that what we have in our plan? And I don't see that being the case, as this is actually a highly residential area just in its nature. So for those reasons, I'm not really sure that this is the type of project that we want to bring to this area and that it would actually benefit us in any way. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Proctor, and I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It wasn't brought up before. Delivery, when will that take place?
Typically, the deliveries are done in the mornings.
Okay.
And will that be coming in through the 135th
The
as
only
well?
place.
How else?
Only place.
Yes, yes, it will.
And these will be large trucks that are coming in?
It's a variety of different vehicles.
Okay.
These are all things, if I may, Madam Chair, these are all things that are permitted by the code. It's really inappropriate for the board, and I apologize for perhaps being a little excited here. It's really inappropriate for the board to imagine a trash problem, to imagine a noise problem. You have noise ordinances, and we have drive-throughs, and we've put on the record how far those drive-throughs are from the residential single-family area. And we've put on the record the hundreds of feet between the street and the drive-through, coming off of 135th, coming across the property in an east-west direction, or west-east direction, coming into the drive-through. You don't have factual basis for a lot of your comments. And I say that respectfully, you just don't. And I'll say one other thing to address the board member's comment. We will agree to a condition to close at midnight, this store, notwithstanding the hours of some other store in some other location. Thank you.
Thank you. And you've answered the question that I had, whether or not Wendy's would consider doing the restaurant since it's permitted without the drive-through. And I, too, have a concern with the drive-through, and my concern is the senior home that is right across. When we talk about, you know, quality of life, I know the area. It's unfortunate. It's been a parcel of land that's been sitting there all this time, and I don't think they do diligence to try to find the appropriate businesses to come in. There was a young lady who spoke about we don't need any more unhealthy. To tell you the truth, people just don't care about that. And I understand. Family Dollars, all they're going to do is sell processed food. And, you know, it's not part of what we need to consider. What we need to consider is the fact it's the drive-through. And it's whether or not we believe that the drive-through should be allowed. And based on concerns that I have and concerns that I think the board members have, we're of a mind that we don't want to approve, and I'm, you know, I should let it up to you guys to decide because I cannot.
With that said,
Mr. Attorney?
I would,
Just one second.
yes.
I'd just like to state that I think the board is able to comment based upon its experience with other applications and with its observations of how similar facilities have operated both in the city and outside the city. So if you have observed a trash problem, for example, with a drive-through at other fast food facilities, I think that's a reasonable comment to make.
We approve a drive-through possibly 2 years ago when Publix came and they were redoing and they were adding the drugstore. And one of the things that was considered was the proximity with the bank that was there, and it was shown that how their trucks were going to come in and how the people were going to be able to, there was ample, you know, sufficient space. I'm concerned of that space because it is still a small space right there. I live not too far from a Family Dollar that's on 119th, and the fact that the county has put those dividers, that truck, when they're making delivery, they're backing, they've blocked off the entire street to back up into that Family Dollar in order to make the delivery. I would have liked to see other things, but it's not up to me. Restaurant is permitted, and I would, you know, it's great, the restaurant, but I just don't think that, you know, we have enough that the drive-through would fit right there. That's just my concern.
With that said, I would like to propose a motion to deny this application.
I second it.
Please, please, please. It's been moved for dismissal by Ms. Hill and seconded by Ms. Cohen. Roll call, please.
Ms. Philippe?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen?
To deny it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, then yes. Just make it-
Mr. McDermott? Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Genty?
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Unanimous.
Unanimous, yeah.
Moving on, moving on. Thank you. Next case. This child just blocked. I'm sorry? You've got to.
Moved by me, seconded by Ms. Cohen.
Right.
I'm sorry, she's mine. London, you cannot block the hallway. Move your chair, put it back, thank you.
Okay,
That was a fast one.
That's our longest
Grandchild number 4.
one. All right, what's up next?
V6V-06-18, Copper Bridge Foundation, 12500 Northeast 4th Avenue. Is the applicant here? Please. Please move forward. Okay, Mr. Cook, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam
Get
Chair.
everybody ready.
The item before the board is a special exception to allow for an educational facility located at 12500 Northeast 4th Avenue for the Copper Bridge Foundation.
I'm supposed to speak?
No, sir, no.
Okay.
May I have the PowerPoint, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Technology doesn't always help.
As you can see, this is an area view of the site. As stated, it is 12500 Northeast 4th Avenue. The property is approximately 12,000 square feet. Unlike the existing, I can't see that far, but okay. The property is for Copper Bridge Foundation. The building is approximately 3,000 square feet. The proposed use, as stated, is for classroom, educational, workshop, lectures, cultural-oriented activities at the location. There have been no previous zones approvals at the site. As stated earlier, this is a special exception under Article 4, Division 2, Section 4-202, educational, special, or technical facility within the R6 district, a residential district. The approval is through the special exception by you, the Board of Adjustment. This is an area view of the transit zones or the zoning districts of the area. As you can see, you have residential all across of it. You have it to the existing site, to the north, to the south, and to the east you have a commercial zone, and to the west you have another residential. Like the other project that was for the drive-through, this is a special exception, and we have criteria that we look at to review for the viability of the use at that location. And the first criteria that we look at is the use as listed, special exception in this district where the property is located. Kind of awkwardly stated, but it is what it is. It is a yes. To allow for this use within the R6 district, it requires a special exception.
Got it.
And this is why it's before the board. B, is there appropriate provisions for access facilities adequate for the estimated traffic from the public streets and sidewalks so as to assure the public safety and to avoid traffic congestion? Yes, there is a full frontal access to the existing development along Northeast 125th Street. And additionally, The proposed use will generate a total of 134 trips daily and will result in around 11 additional trips in the AM peak hours and 16 trips more in the PM peak hours. See, are there adequate parking areas and off-street truck loading spaces, if applicable, for the anticipated number of occupants, employees, patrons, and other layout parking to conveniently serve the property? Yes, with a caveat. Okay, this property is a non-conforming property in that it has existing 5 parking spaces on there. We do have a provision within the code that when you're redeveloping a property and you have, to your most practical extent, fulfilled the criteria of the code, then what you have is what you have. They have done the best they can based on the circumstances of the site plan, and they are providing 5 parking spaces. Now, to all disclosure here, that is not going to be really adequate for the use that they are planning to employ at the site. Based on the uses that they have there, such as the proposed educational use, and they have an existing residential use at the site, they would need 16 parking spaces. So what do we do in that mindset when you have a deficiency of that capacity? The applicant being progressive and being open-minded about how he wants to serve the public that's going to utilize that has come up with an idea. He has a parcel, let's move to that is indicated here that is to the west of it, that is open, that he owns, that he's going to develop into a parking lot. The code provides a provision within the LDRs to allow for you to have off-site parking that is within 600 feet of your property that can serve you as your parking area. As you can see, this is less than 600 feet from the property that we'll be serving, and it's his, and you're able to do this through a parking agreement. He's going to have a parking agreement that's going to require review by the city that says that he's going to service his property and provide property so it can help that. And I believe when he's going to talk about how he's going to utilize that and service it through other mechanisms so it can help mitigate any kind of conflict with those who are coming to the site at the time. There you have, is there suitable landscaping and fencing for the property? As you can see, the property is located within a residential area. The applicant has proposed robust landscaping. And he has done this not because the code requires it, because the code is an existing site. And what triggers meeting current code requirement is are you increasing your site by 50% or more? He's not adding any more square footage to the site. He's just renovating the site. But in mind, regardless of that, he's going to bring about substantial landscaping to the site. Why? Because he understands that that's going to serve making the community look better. It's going to complement his service that he's providing there, have luxe landscaping, so when people come, they can see that it is a beautiful site. E, is the proposed special exception reasonable in terms of logical, efficient, and economical extension of public services facilities such as water and sewer, police and fire, and transportation? Yes, all basic public services such as public water, sewer, police, and fire protection are readily available and currently serve the property, so that the proposed use will have no adverse impact on the public accesses or cost. F, will the proposed special exception constitute an inappropriate use in the area and will not substantially injure, distract from the use or the surrounding properties or from the character of the neighborhood? Yes, the educational facility school are in allowable use by the LDRs, which is the land development regulations, and are deemed to be generally suitable for locations in the R6 district. So in conclusion, we recommend an approval. We recommend an approval of this special exception with a few conditions, and I will read those into the record if I may. 1, that the parking lot for the educational facility site shall be striped and proposed, as proposed. A parking plan shall be submitted showing both the parking lot improvements and the location of the valet services and how such services will be delivered as part of the Development Review Committee process. 2, a parking agreement shall be submitted, approved by the city, and recorded in the records of the Miami-Dade prior to final approval by the Development Review Committee, which shall include a student parking plan and a note approved in Section C and guaranteed regarding its as or a suitable alternative site and approved by the city. Continued availability as parking resource for the educational facility. So what are we saying there? A lot of yada yada there. Forgive me for being a little informal with that. It is to say that as long as that use is going on there, that the applicant is committing to providing parking. And if he's plans to develop that site in the future, that he'll still be obligated to providing parking for the use at 12500 Northeast 4th Avenue. That is really, at essence, what we're saying. And in concert with that, that he would provide information to the people who will be patroning the site on where the parking is, so they won't have them parking into the residential areas and in other flows. They have nowhere to go. 3, the parking lot shall receive a certificate of completion prior to the finalization of the building permit for educational facility site. And 4, a certificate of use be applied within the Community Planning and Development Department for the use that he's proposing.
Thank you. And the applicant?
Hello, my name is Gio Darter. I am the owner of the property at 12500 Northeast 4th Avenue, also the parking space or the vacant lot near the 125 property. I am a longtime resident of North Miami. I actually grew up in this neighborhood. I left in my 20s and I came back about 12 years ago, and I opened up a business, and then I bought this property that was in disrepair. And I am a lover of architecture and history, so it was my purpose to restore the building to its natural use and to present it as a part of history of North Miami. With that said, we also have a foundation that a nonprofit that we established 10 years ago, and our mission is to promote cultural and educational exchange through the medium of our artistic expression. So my purpose when I bought the building was A, to fix it and use it as a rental, and also in the future this. It's taking us 5 years to get to this point, but again, I'm here now, and so I'm letting you know what it's about. It's about beautifying this neighborhood. It's in the entrance of North Miami into the 125 corridor. I believe in actually the fact that I believe in community. I've been working with this community for the last 4 years, bringing arts and culture to North Miami. This is why it's important for us to have this center here to bring the community to our space. What we did is we first tried to create more space at the center, and actually we have not 5 spaces, we have 7 available at this point. That wasn't enough. So I went and I purchased just recently the lot that was nearby at a great expense due to the fact that we needed to supply more parking. Again, I love architecture, but I also like landscaping. So it's all about beautification. So what we did is we hired a company to come in and to create what will be the future of that. And I believe we have that. I'd like to show it to you, if possible. Do we have the, and I also brought with me tonight, just to know that we really are a foundation and we really are what we mean. I am a longtime resident of North Miami, and I do believe that community is everything. So in this case here, we'll show you that the project is, I just want to show you quickly the USB, if we could just do that quickly, just so they could see the proposed site. Again, it's all about beautification, and really it's about this area, and also applying what is needed, which is the parking space. And even the parking spot will be used as an art space. There'll be art throughout the 125 garden. There'll be a garden art center, and the parking lot will also have structures that will have art as well to tie it into the 125 location. As a matter of fact, we already have on our building, we already have the welcome to North Miami. The sign is in my property. The city of North Miami put it in there. I have welcome to Sunkist Grove. That's all within my property at this point.
Are you referring to Sunkist Grove in?
It's
are you
Sunkist, yes,
talking
it's-
about Griffin?
Griffin Road, right,
Yes,
correct.
yes,
It's
okay.
got the four
Yeah, I know.
directions, and it's all in my property.
Okay,
the direction
right.
out there.
Sunkist Grove's on the other side of the
Yeah.
city.
So,
My
this-
apologies. Could you access the PowerPoint, please? Thank you. All right. Hey, I got it.
So I believe most of you know this building. It's on 125th Street and 4th Avenue. And I've had it, like I said, for about 5 years, and we started working on, at least for the appearance, for the entrance. And also, at that point, we did, we restored the two-story, and it's now rented, and we did the same thing with the major building. But what we want is, we want an art space that we could do workshops, art workshops, and exhibits with documentary, showing documentary films, and just workshops, simple as that, using that area as a center. I brought with me today, we have on our board Mimi Ferre, who's also with us. She's the head of our arts programs. We worked with the MoCA here many times. We worked at Little Haiti Cultural Center many times over. We've brought international acts to Miami, and we like to bring them to North Miami. And we love the fact that Griffin Park, the amphitheater, is about to start their, or that's, I believe, in
There's a new design that's gone forth about a possible new Griffin Center at Griffin Park. Yes.
That'd be wonderful. So that would be an area, again, we want to bring artists to that neighborhood. And so, again, that would just be something that we could echo as well. So that's just you see, that's the property there. That's the future site with the landscape. I have actually this landscape designer with us, and the architect didn't show tonight, but we're here. What else? Oh, these are our programs that we work with that will be at the center. We're looking at 24 kids max and about 7 staff in the daytime from 8 to 8. And pretty much that's it. On occasions, we will have exhibits or evening documentary films screenings. That's why the property is so important next door for the parking. Again, it's right down the street. It's, I mean, just a few steps away, not too far. And so, again, in the same block. So you don't have to cross street. It's all in the same block, pretty much. That's all I have to say, I think, at this point, unless Mimi wants to say something, or if you have questions for us.
All right.
Public hearing?
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Darder?
Darder, yes.
Okay. We'll open public hearing. For anyone for or against the item, please come forward and state your case. Name and address.
Carmela Furman, 12530 Northeast 4th Avenue. So I'm a couple of homes away from where the location is. If it was a different location, I think I would be totally supportive of it. I'm all for what you're doing, you know, the arts, the workshops, like I'm big into that. My fiance is big into that. That's kind of what we want to see in North Miami. My concern is the safety of that area. I mean, I don't make a left. I don't go east when I come out of 4th Ave. Like, I don't come right out of my street and make a left. Like, it is between the people coming from coming north and then people going on 125th east to west. It's a dangerous little intersection. Like, I don't cross the street there. I don't even walk up that street. Like, I walk my dog and I walk him around all the way up to the other end where the Griffin Park sign is, which I think is, is that Northeast 3rd, right? And I'll walk back. So that's my only concern is the safety of that location. Otherwise, I love the idea. The parking probably also would be an issue, I would think, if people might miss it. I mean, that means then signage has to kind of go up. I don't know what that's going to look like. And the landscaping part, there's also a lot of trash that piles up there. People just toss things, or the garbage trucks, just things fly out. So that upkeep would be necessary, I think, for that, especially if we're going to have really nice landscaping. Things are just going to get trapped in there because, again, I've picked up quite a bit of trash out of those bushes in my street. So that's really all I have to say. Is really my concern is the safety of anyone driving in or out or trying to cross into it from the double yellow, which I do see people in the buildings that are on that street kind of cross over out of their parking buildings and make that left or make a right, which is dangerous, seeing people come in speeding from Griffin. So that's really, I don't know how much time I have left, but that's really all I have to add to that is the safety concern.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, good evening. My name's Mimi Foray. I live at 555 Crandon Boulevard in Key Biscayne, and I have been a part of Copper Bridge Foundation since 2010, but I'm also an educator. I've been with Miami-Dade County Public Schools since 1989, and I started as a museum educator and working here on 150, close by 151st, and then went over to Miami Beach, North Beach Elementary, and now I am the head of the art program in Key Biscayne. I've done a lot of art education workshops and classes, and I see that in the future that this location is perfect for doing these types of small workshops and focusing on art education. I think that the building, the two spaces that are available are not that huge, and the large amount of traffic that you are foreseeing is controllable, especially with the parking lot that is going to be placed close by and the possibility of having a parking valet system organization helping out with people coming to have their cars parked. So I'm in support of this variance, of this exceptionality. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Joelle Orr. I've been with Copper Bridge Foundation since its inception. I would like to thank you for your dedication to the city and the community that we've been getting so involved with since we've been here. And I wanted to point out that every time we talk about doing this, we've been, and you'll see in the picture that we do talk about putting a blockade, like a pretty one, but some kind of block so that if a car were to be going off the street or something, that there would be something in place. It's something that we've always discussed, and it's in the picture. And then as far as the traffic, I think...
No, please, yeah.
I think, it's not like the Wendy's where people who are just passing through the community are going to be just going in and out, but rather the people who are going to be coming to us are people who are specifically coming to do these cultural arts. And I don't think that's going to be an issue, and we are creating parking specifically for that, and I think that's about it. And we're also trying to serve the people who may not even have cars, people who are walking, people who ride their bikes, people who are already going to places. We're on the border of the downtown area, so people who are already going to Mocha or people, they can walk. We're really, really close. So, thanks.
Thank you. I think we have one. Mr. Attorney, you had something to say?
Please.
But we have one more.
When they're done.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, Melton Goodwin, 310 Northeast 126th Street. So I live on the corner of 126th Street, so the next block over, and Northeast 3rd. I love what you guys have done with the buildings. I didn't like the fact that it went kind of unmanaged, I guess, for a while. And that lot that you now have has been an eyesore. So I'm looking forward to something, you're doing something nifty there. So I'm definitely in support of it. I think this is what North Miami needs to attract people like this. When we get them here, we need to keep them here. And this has been part of the problem with North Miami. And that's why you're having the situation right now with the Wendy's, because if you guys all remember, it was the same thing years ago with the Walmart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that said, public hearing is closed. Mr. Attorney.
Right, so I just wanted to clarify on two conditions in the conclusion recommendations related to the parking lot. One is that in condition number 1, says the parking lot for the education facility shall be striped as proposed, and I think it should, if it's correct, also say including paving and drainage. Is that correct, Mr. Cook?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the second is that in condition number 3, it talks about the parking lot shall receive a certificate of completion prior to finalization of building permits. The concern is that there be a place to park once the building becomes operational. So I was suggesting alternatives of either issuance of building permits or the completion of construction or certificate of occupancy. So one of those instead of the word finalizations.
I would think a certificate of occupancy would be appropriate in that that indicates that the building is ready to be occupied, and then we would need to have the parking available to service those who will be utilizing.
Right. Okay, thank you for, and those two corrections. Okay.
All right. And before I open board discussion, I just have a question, just to clarify from Mr. Darder. I know you said educational activities and all, and you mentioned 24 kids, and then that maximum, and that your programs or your hours of operation would be from 8 to 8. So we're not talking about having classes for children.
Workshops. No, workshops. They come in, and we have certain people like Mimi Foray, other artists that come in from around the world, and we open up to do exchange programs with them, along with the city of North Miami with the MOCA. We work with the MOCA. We work with the
So
school.
these,
We work.
I'm sorry, but these children wouldn't be coming on their own?
No, local kids, and they either come in a bus or they're driven by
Okay.
the parents.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't.
And not
they don't walk.
necessarily during
No.
school hours?
Well, we in the
Some-
summer, no.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. McDermott, I'm sorry, board
I'm
discussion?
I'm sorry. I think this is really wonderful, and I'd like to make a motion to approve it, bearing discussion, you know.
Anybody else want to make any comment?
I
Any
think
comment? Any other comment?
I'd like to make a motion to second it. I believe it's a good idea.
I would just want to make one request. I also think this is fantastic. I think this is exactly what we've been trying to get into North Miami. This is what our downtown redevelopment plan speaks to. The only thing I wanted to ask, though, is on speaker that had some concerns about the direction of traffic. When you're coming out of that parking lot, maybe it would be appropriate to put I think that would be a right turn only sign so that nobody's crossing traffic onto the other end by Publix. Or just a suggestion to help alleviate that concern.
Well, if
That
there's
should be with
consensus on it, you can make it a board condition.
Yeah.
That'd be fine.
That's fine.
So I'll amend my motion to include that.
Okay.
I'll second it. Or you'll second
Well,
it.
I'll second.
do you accept? Okay. All right, so it's been moved by Mr. McDermott with the,
Right turn only.
thank you.
Turn only.
I'm not thinking. And seconded by Mr. Gentil, and roll call, please.
And all of the staff conditions, of course.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Definitely.
Goes without saying.
All right, roll call.
Ms. Philippe,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. McDermott,
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Genty.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you
You
so
got it.
much for bringing this to our community. I'm so
Thank you very
excited,
much.
and I love the progress with these buildings. I've been following it for the last year or two, and I just think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank
Yeah.
you so
very
much.
much.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very
I
much.
think it's going to be.
Made my night.
when
Thank
it-
you very
It's
much.
going to be a
Invite
real,
us.
a real highlight to the city. Thanks, Gio.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all too.
Glad you
Appreciate
kept
it.
the architecture.
All right,
Me too.
great.
Yeah, me too. Isn't it beautiful?
Actually looks better with, it's modernized a little bit. Okay, next case, it's running late. I've got a grandchild. Next case, V-09-18, Atelier Kids Learning Center, 12625 West Dixie Highway. Applicant is there. Okay, Mr. Cook, go ahead, do your
Thank you,
stuff.
Madam Chair. As you stated, this is Atelier Kids Center, which will be located at 12625 West Dixie Highway. This is a special exception to allow an educational facility within the C3 district. May I have the PowerPoint, please? Ready. Thank you. And we technically have difficulty now. Okay, all right. So, the property is approximately 14,000 square feet. Is located on the east side of West Dixie Highway and south of Northeast 127th Street. Is it going to work now? Okay, I think it's ready, ma'am. Thank you. Yes. Okay. As you can see, here you already have the property in yellow. And red is the indication of adjacent site that they're going to combine to utilize as parking for the facility. As stated, you have a building of approximately 3,500 square feet in structure. You have obtained the north portion, as I stated, of the vacant property for parking, and then they will add and enclose playground area to service the children that they will be working with. And they are looking to work with an age group from 18 months to 5 years of age. Stated special exception. The special exception is pursuant to Article 4, Division 2, Section 4-202, to allow for educational special or technical facility within the C3 district as stated. As you can see, this is the area map demonstrating all of the zones in the area. This property is located in the C3. It also has a few overlays over it that would help with the development for other use beyond just the educational use that they're saying there. As you can see on the plan, they have the site itself is C3, to the north is C3, to the south is C3, to the another south portion is C3, 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 C3. So as you can see, they are in a sea of C3 in this area.
Business.
So as in the other situations dealing with the special exception, we have the specific criteria that we look at when we're reviewing the project. The first one is dealing with is the listed area that is located requires a special exception for this use. Yes, within the C3 district, you'll require a special exception for use of educational facility. Two, is there appropriate provision for access facilities adequate for the estimated traffic from public streets and sidewalks so to assure the public safety and avoid traffic congestion? Yes. The proposed use is an educational facility, child learning center. The proposed site indicates the preliminary ingress and ingress, if I can talk just a little bit, ingress and egress from the property. They're doing a one-way off of West Dixie allow for the staging of drop-off and the exiting of the students into the building and other patrons who will be utilizing the facility. Are there adequate parking area and off-street truck loading spaces for the anticipated number of occupants, employees, patrons, and layouts for the parking is convenient and conducive to safe operation. As I alluded before, because of the design of the building and how they're going to orient it, more specifically, yes, pursuant to Article 5, Division 14, 5-1402, the educational facility requires a minimum of 1 parking space for every 200 square feet. You have a 3,500, almost a 3,600 square foot building at 200 feet as parking for every 200 square feet of area. You would need 17 parking spaces. The applicant is providing that on site, along with the circulation to help mitigate any kind of conflicts within to the right of way. In addition to that, we did some caveats to that, if you can see, as in A, that the parking spaces be delineated with 4-inch yellow or white stripes, that the traffic control signs and pavement markings be used as necessary to ensure safe vehicle traffic operation, signs, and to comply with the manual of uniform traffic control devices for the Federal Highway Federation Administration is be employed at the site, and that whenever feasible, curb cuts, wheel stops, barriers be installed to protect the landscape, pedestrian areas, and the building from any property damage. Is there suitable landscaping or fencing along the lot? The applicant is proposing landscaping for the site. Again, just like the other property that we just discussed, the Cooper Bridge, they are not increasing the actual size of the building, but so they wouldn't be required to come up to the LDR's landscape requirement, but they are doing that anyway. And you know, as we discussed in the other project and just with this project, you know, landscape enhance your building. Doing proper landscaping is going to make it good and softens the impact on it, and it helps with the communication with the pedestrian realm with good landscaping, and they are employing that. And is there proposed special exception reasonable in terms of the logistic, efficient, and economic extension of the public services, such as the water and sewer and things to that effect? Yes, all basic public services such as water, sewer, police, and fire protection are readily available and provided to the property and meets applicable service levels standards. Will the proposed special exception constitute an appropriate use in the area? Now, this is a little caveat because this is a commercial area. Generally, we don't look at, generally in this, and even ironically, I would think to some extent, having an educational use within a commercial area. But it is permitted by special exception, and in that mindset, the special exception in of itself lends a case-by-case study for you, the board, to assess if this is appropriate. And in that mindset, we believe this use is appropriate based on whatever assessment that you find appropriate based on, you know, based on the use. We think what they are employing would be adequate for that area and would not be intrusive to what is going on around it right now. You have adequate parking. You have a public parking area which is to the northeast of it that people could also utilize if they needed additional parking. So in conclusion, we are recommending approval. We have several conditions that we have would like to have addressed, and I will read those into the record if I may. That a drop-off and pick-up area shall be delineated in the rear of the property for orderly and safe drop-off and pick-up of the students. That assistance be provided to help the students exit and enter motor vehicles. As described above, the traffic control signs and pavement markings be used as necessary to ensure safe vehicular traffic operation, and said signs be complied with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, Federal Highway Administration, United States Department of Transportation from 1978, as adopted by the State Department and for the Department of Transportation as revised. That whenever feasible, curbs, wheel stops, pavement markings, and bollards shall be installed to protect preliminarily the pedestrian area, landscape areas, building, and property lines. That the use comply with all applicable requirements of the Department of Education the Miami-Dade Public School, and the Miami Fire Rescue Department, and all other county and state agencies. I would strike that Miami-Dade Public School. This is a private entity, so they really wouldn't fall under that criteria.
SDCF.
That prior to the Development Review Committee approval or issuance of any building permit, that the applicant provide a landscape plan that complies with the LDRs, Section 5-1201, prepared by a registered landscape architect and registered Florida architect or Florida architect. That a certificate of use from the Community Development and Planning Department be issued upon compliance with all terms and conditions of approval, the same subject to cancellation upon violation of any of the conditions herein. And if I may, Madam Chair, as a caveat, because something hadn't been discussed in their proposal is related to the number of students that they will have at the site. And that is important because you have certain criteria you need to meet based on the number of students there, especially dealing with at their school age that they're talking about, which is day, nursery, kindergarten, and preschool, after-school care. You need a minimum of 45 square feet per child, half that. So let's say you had 50 students, then you need 45 square feet for the playground area.
Right. 35
Right.
square feet inside, 45
45
outside for half.
And they need to delineate for the interior, as you are stating, Madam Chair, 35 square feet per child at the site. So they would need to establish that they are able to meet
What
that.
their capacity goals.
Yes.
Okay.
And that condition needs to be met.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
So, Mr. Cook, are you adding those to?
Yes,
as
sir. I'm adding
conditions?
to condition number 8.
8. Okay, so can you state it the way you would want it read?
Madam Chair, the condition number 8 is related to school capacity. The applicant needs to clearly indicate the number of students that they will have at the property, and they need to coincide with the requirements as stated on record. Pursuant to playground area, they would need a minimum of 45 square feet for half of the students to be at any time, and they would need to have 35 square feet for each student interior for use.
So you don't want to set a maximum, like, the maximum number of students permitted at this facility are X?
So, well, we'll need a breakdown on it, because the breakdown is the floor area excluding office, bathrooms, and things like that. If they had a kitchen area, that would be
Kitchen,
excluded
hallway.
also. And I'm not sure of that. right
And
now.
that's DCF.
Can you set that at the time of DRC?
At the time of DRC, we need to know that information, yes.
Okay. So if I can ask you a question about number 6. So will there definitely be DRC approval or review as part of
Yes, it
this?
is going to DRC.
Because you have the landscape plan is prior to DRC approval or issuance of building permit. It's going to either say whichever comes first or remove issuance of building permit and require it prior to DRC approval. It's sort of like they can come to you, if they don't bring it at the time of DRC review, they say, oh, we'll do it before building permit, because that's what the condition reads.
It does. I'm thinking. I would say ideally we would need it at the time of at DRC.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you would strike or issuance of any building permits?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's my presentation, Madam Chair.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. And I see Mr. Burns is up. Are you representing the
Yes.
applicant?
And the owners are also here. But for the record, Kevin Burns, 2065 Alamanda Drive, North Miami, Florida, 33181. On behalf of 126 LLC that owns the property and the applicant for this development. There's a bigger picture here, and I got to go into exactly what's going on.
I just want to make sure that does he have
I
the
was sitting here thinking the same thing.
power to
Yes.
So I
talk
guess the
for
first
them
question is,
and-
are you an attorney?
No.
And
Are
in
you
what
a
capacity are you representing the applicant?
I'm registered as the consultant and agent with the city, representing the property owners, 126 LLC, and also with the applicants that are here to speak on their behalf, and I am registered with the city.
You mean registered as a lobbyist?
Yes.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Good evening, board members. Welcome, friendly face on the board, experienced board member there. The bigger picture is, if you're not familiar where this property is, it's the Miami Way Theater, the vacant lot. There's their building that we're speaking about is the old Watson Restaurant and the adjacent parking lot. It's 4 parcels of land all assembled together. As you all know that have been here for a while, it's been vacant and closed up for nearly 20 years. Some local people owned it, never did anything with it. Previously this year, a local North Miami resident and also a local North Miami business owner purchased the complete property to redevelop it. Instead of tearing down the old Miami Way Theater and tearing down the old restaurant, we looked to see what was the best use for it. We've made a commitment to restore the old Miami Way Theater and to restore the building that the applicants want to go in. There's a lot of stuff going on with this property because it is such a highly visible property. Everybody wants to know what it's going to be. And there's lots of things that are being said that's happening. One of the things that may happen go in there is that in the theater part, was O Cinema may move from Wynwood to this facility. As of today, though, O Cinema has no contract or contracts to lease or purchase the theater or this complete property. There is an item coming before the council and the CRA board to turn it into a special events facility hosting numerous events year-round. And that seems to be one of the most popular items out there because we've had calls from all over the country for people wanting to lease a space. Where in North Miami could you hold a function to host 100 people that's affordable? Where could you hold a mini concert? Where could you hold a seminar? So having that facility next door, what would be compatible in the smaller building next door that wouldn't create a conflict? And we kept debating what would be great for the street, but also great and synergy for the primary use of the Miami Way Theater, which will primarily be at nighttime. So we were looking for a low-intensity use. We didn't want a restaurant. We didn't want a microbrewery. We didn't want a bar. We didn't want all these other things that are permitted. So we came across the leasees who operate a school for since 2011 at another location, and they were looking to relocate here to the North Miami area. And we think it is a perfect fit for the type of learning center that they have and for the quality education that they're going to have. Plus, it fits with the downtown redevelopment. It fits with everything that North Miami is trying to do. There's going to be some life on the street in the daytime, and there's going to be life in that facility at nighttime. And so it's a good synergy there. The CRA has already given money for the restoration of the outside of this building. The CRA has already given money for the outside of the restoration of the Miami Way Theater just for the outside. And that addresses the exterior of the buildings, it addresses the parking lot, and some other things. So the applicants, I'll jump into the number of students. That is determined correctly by DHS. What was it? DCF. They determine the number of students based on the square footage and so forth. It's not within our control. So that will be determined by that agency. We have a really great plan for drop-off. We exceed the required parking space on site. Plus, we have additional parking spaces available to us as part of the Miami Way Theater. Plus, there's additional on-street, and there's another city parking lot close by. We think this is going to be something that the city wants. There is no neighbors. There is no residential people that there's a conflict with. The perfect timing, just everything about it. It's an experienced operator who brings years of experience to this area. And I think it's a very compatible for the vision that we're looking for in the downtown West Dixie corridor of North Miami, and it's compatible with what is going to happen at the Miami Way Theater in the future. Any questions or concerns that you may have, I'll be happy to answer. The owners are going to spend a small fortune on the interior to bring it up to date. Again, the building has been closed for nearly 20 years. New roof, plumbing, electrical, and all that. Of course, the staff is going to review, and all the permits will be addressed and ascertained. So I'll just stop it there, and any questions or any concerns of the public, be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. And now I will open public hearing. Anyone for or against this particular item? Not very. Don't encourage her, Kevin. She'll come up there. Okay, with that said, we'll close public hearing. Board discussion.
I like the project. I don't see any problem with it. I'm excited to see something happening with that beautiful building. I'm so excited to hear about the Miami Theater. So unless anybody had a discussion, I
Yeah, so you're going to open up.
I have a couple of questions.
question.
Yeah.
You talk about events facility. The fact that it's a school, will that forestall the ability to sell alcohol or serve alcohol?
First question that came up when the idea. No, because the Miami Way Theater does not serve alcohol. A caterer will have a special event license that goes with each production company that rents the facility and caters. That was one of the first questions that we asked, and there is no conflict, and the city assured us of that. Plus, we looked at all the ordinances.
And the events would be at night when the kids are.
Majority of events would be at night if they did it. And also, if O Cinema should purchase the property and move their cinema from Wynwood there, they are very glad to have a tenant in the daytime contributing to the mortgage payment, you might say, and it's compatible for what they do.
So it's going to be a school during the day and an event thing at night?
The Learning Center, yeah.
No, it's two separate buildings.
Two separate buildings.
The theater is going to be renovated into an event planning or event space, but this will be a full-time, day-to-day.
One more question.
Right, Monday through Friday from the morning until.
And where's the playground going to be?
The playground.
Towards the west end that I saw.
It's the. As of right now, on the way the plans are submitted now, is parked partly in the rear and also on the northeast corner of the property, adjacent to the building, attached to the building, so that the teachers can see out into the playground, and there's access out to the playground through the building.
Okay.
If one of these event facilities or O Cinema goes in, will they not need that extra space that they're going to put their playground in for parking?
It's a separate whatever goes into the Miami Way Theater. The city recently had passed an ordinance, and then it got confusing, where if there is a public parking lot within a certain number of feet of your building, you do not necessarily have to meet the parking requirement. Okay. And that's not just a factor here, it's a factor in all of downtown, and a problem with the redevelopment.
Well, is there one?
And so there's plenty of parking for this entity on their property that they control. What happens with the theater is something that they're going to work with the CRA, and the city is addressing the whole downtown area all over again.
Over there. Okay. And Mr. Burns, the owners, the owners for the atelier, are they here?
Oh, absolutely.
You guys? Okay. I just have a question, and knowing that you cannot, if you could come to the podium, name and address, and then I have my questions for you.
Your name and address for the record, yes.
Mariana Gallardo, 465 Northeast 112th Street, Miami.
All right. I know that at this point you cannot know what is, in terms of your capacity, what DCF will do. And I'm asking that to try to protect you. And I'm sorry, you represent the owners of the building or the property, but we've had too many applicants come in for this type of projects, and they cannot move forward because, you know, the number of kids that they are allowed just doesn't make for them to break even in terms of, you know, making a profit or what have you. At some point, I know the renovations are not you, it's the owners of the property that's gonna make it. But once that is done, and I can't tell you how to do your business, but at some point, if you can get in touch with DCF so they can at least, you know, but I wanted to ask, how many kids would you like to have? Because I know if you're opening up a business, you have some idea of, you know, what the capacity should be for you to make a profit out of this based on, you know, what you're going to pay for your lease and the expenses for your teachers, yada, yada, yada.
Mhm.
So you have an idea of how many kids you would like to have.
I think it's gonna be around 80.
80. And if you can't get 80, would you still move forward with the building?
Yes.
Okay. Just want you to be aware. Okay.
Real quick, what is the duration of the lease?
It's 10 years.
I'd like to move approval.
Second?
All right. Moved by Ms. Hill, seconded by Mr. McDermott. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Cohen?
Oh, out of order today.
Why
Okay. Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Genty? I mean, Mr. Genty.
Yes.
Forgive her.
Ms. Philippe?
Yes.
Passed 5-0.
Thank you very much, and this is the start to the redevelopment of that whole parcel of land. Thank you.
Kevin, did you guys say 20 years?
10.
Just about. Philip Michael Thomas had it in
Oh, over there, yeah.
1980, 1981. And he had it open for 2 years, and then it was, you know, vacated, closed down. The previous owners bought it in 2005 with the dream of redeveloping it through the help of the CRA, but didn't quite happen. And then they recently sold it last year, and again, a local person has it. And a lot of people looked at that property, wanted to make churches out of it, do a lot of other things. We just thought this
Yeah,
was
but you
most
know what?
compatible.
That garage is a deterrent, so when are we getting up?
That's another story.
But let's move on to the next case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which is V-10-18 Fountainhead
Desertland.
1890 Northeast 146. Yeah, the car people.
And the,
I don't know. Right.
the Ninja.
Ninja.
Lounge.
Okay.
Ninja Cafe.
Yeah. I was
The Ninja Cafe.
Oh, okay. So they need. So thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. So I'm gonna take this very slow.
Take
I'm
it
trying
very
to rush
not
through
too
other
slow.
Not too slow.
because
Not
this
too
is
slow.
I rushed through a few of them trying to get us to this point. So
No,
this
we have that.
Yeah.
We have that in the package.
Okay. All right. It's a
Okay,
little
go
bit
ahead.
more that they speak there.
Oh, okay.
A little bit more they give. A little bit more.
Okay. Go ahead.
So what we have before us is a special exception to allow for a sports field, recreational field, multi-purpose field within the M1 district. And that is to do something of that type, of course, is through this special exception. It's not by right per se, if you say. And if I may have the PowerPoint, please. Thank you. So as you stated, this is located at 1890 Northeast 146th Street. As you can see, this is actually at the corner of, that is Northeast, whichever you say, 20th Lane or 19th Avenue. I've seen it both at that given there. And it also is not clearly indicated there. The pointer, this part of this parcel also is supposed to be a part of it where they're planning to have parking at that location. So also in that, you're looking at a parcel that is approximately 156,000 square feet, 3.58 acres. This is a large lot. The intent of this is to do, as I stated, a multi-purpose field. They talk about in the plan a paintball field. They also have discussed with me having archery, being able to transform it into a soccer field, and there may be other uses they may desire to utilize the property as also in the context of recreational amusement capacity. And you have also had previous zoning there. They did submit for a temporary use to have a block party at the site, which would have been great, but unfortunately, because of circumstances and things like that, we wasn't able to proceed forward, so it was denied. Hopefully, they will won't be discouraged by that, and we can get it done next time around with earlier submittal and things to that effect. So as stated, this is a special exception per Article 4, Division 2, Section 4-202, to allow for a recreational sports facility in the M1 Industrial District. So what we have here is a conceptual plan, site plan, to what they're talking about doing, and the dots representing barriers that people could hide behind in the context of a paintball facility going on. If you see other items that they have located out there, such as, and I don't have my site plan in front of me, but it's okay. Thank you. Such as a seating area, reception area for rental and storage and things to that effect going on at the site. So when we looked at this, as we have with other special exceptions, okay, before I get that far, we have a context of the area as a characteristic of the area as they're dealing with the zoning. And as you can see, this is essentially all industrial around it. You have it to the northwest that's still buffered by M1. You have a residential component, but that's, you know, buffered as I stated there. So you have that all around there. So when you're looking at this analysis, as we did with the others, you have certain criteria that you need to address to move this forward for an approval. And when we looked at this item, we looked at it in the context of the use. For full disclosure, when I normally look at a special exception, we look at it in the context not only for the use, but also with the facilities that they're going to be providing, such as the parking, landscaping, and things to that effect. For the sake of proceeding forward and things like that, and understanding that this property also, this use would also have to go to the Development Review Committee, we said, okay, we can see the use being here. You know, look at the location, look at it as adjacent to the interior recreational facility they have on the east side. So it's not incompatible, it's industrial. So we can look at meshing out all the specifics during the DRC process. So this is where we are. So we're looking at the use, that foundation there. So first one we have is this listed as a special exception for this district? As with the other ones, yes. Within the M1 district, you need a special exception to do this use. So dealing with the next part, we're dealing with, is there appropriate provisions for access facilities adequate for the estimated traffic from public streets and sidewalks so as to ensure public safety and to avoid traffic congestion? So this is pending. Pending because we haven't really had a plan that demonstrates that. Now we know, being familiar with the site, that they have access from the 146, they have access from northeast 20th Lane and things to that effect. But we need to know what the landscaping would be, how they will have access for the public when they are parking to get to that use that they are proposing. So with that in mind, we said the development of the detailed site plan and required to provide development of the detailed site plan and requirements to provide usable, and traffic impact calculations shall be included in the development review process site plan for approval. The applicant requests to approve only the use intended here. The site plan and the specifics shall be reviewed, public safety and all that shall be reviewed at time of development review. Are there adequate parking areas and off-street truck loading, etc.? Again, we have it pending. As stated above, a detailed site plan including provision for parking is not considered as part of this request for special exception approval. However, the applicant has expressed the inclusion of a second parcel, which I indicated earlier, which is immediately south of it, of the main parcel, adjacent to the subject property, where public parking spaces may be provided as part of the overall facility development. Be advised that the site area square footage and folio information for the aforementioned second parcel of land is not included within the information listed on pages of this project. But that's stuff they will need to provide when they come to the Development Review Committee. Additionally, furthermore, in order to ensure the safe and efficient traffic operations within the parking area of the development, city staff has recommended the following parts for the DRC site plan approval. That all parking spaces be delineated in 4-inch white or yellow single striped lines. That the traffic control signs and pavement markings be used as necessary to ensure safe vehicular traffic operation. Said signs to comply with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, Federal Highway Administration, United States Department of Transportation, 1974, as adopted by the State Department of Transportation as revised, and that wherever feasible, curb, wheel stops, or bollards be installed to protect landscape areas, pedestrian areas, and buildings and property lines. Is there suitable landscaping for fencing alongside the rear of the lot in adjacent residential? Well, we don't have residential, so we don't really have to deal with dissimilar uses in this area. But even with that in mind, we're still pending the above details as said before site plan. We need to have a site plan which showing a landscape plan that is going to be provided by a registered landscape architect or a registered architect that needs to be reviewed and approved by the Development Review Committee. And I say that it's in this context. You look at the use that they have there, they're going to be developing a new site, so you need to have boundaries around the site. Coupled with that, you would need to have protections with the projectiles that they are using to do that, so they don't need to be installed certain provisions there to prevent any liability there. All that needs to be hashed out with the applicant at time of development review. Will the proposed special exception constitute an appropriate use for the area and not substantially injure that? As I said before, I would say it wouldn't. If you look at the context of the area, I believe all of you are familiar with the site, that this use would not be a detract from the area at all. It would be appropriate, especially dealing with, as I said earlier, with the use that you have immediately to the east that is owned by the owner himself. So it would be a complementary use to the area. So yes, the outdoor recreational use is good for that area, and we support that. And there are no code violations out there at this time. The applicant has been working diligently to resolve any problems with the existing site at the on the east side that they may have been having with building permit and stuff like that. They've been actively working with the city to resolve all of those problems and really become even more so excellent part of this community in providing services for recreation and jobs to the community. So that said, we are recommending approval of the project, but it is a robust conditions that we have here. Do I need to go through all of these? Can I just say, as stated in the plan, that these conditions be met? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Hi. My name is Michael Pizzi, and I'm an attorney, and my law office is 6625 Miami Lakes Drive. And I'm here on behalf of Desert Land and Michael Desert and the Desert family. And it's just an honor and privilege to be here, and thank you for your service. I'll be brief. Also here is one of the owners of Desert Land, Malcolm Livingston, and the operator and general person who's going to manage this beautiful facility, Katari Cotton, who's well known to the city. I mean, essentially, this is the way that the Desert family is trying to get back to the community. You have a developer who's taking a piece of land that under the M1 industrial and under the comprehensive master plan is zoned for heavy industrial. So you have a piece of land, if you look at page 3 of your report, the uses that are permitted here to the Desert family, major developers, are, number 1, on page 3, light and heavy industrial usages. Instead of doing light and heavy industrial usages, instead of doing heavy industry, and instead of doing an office building, the Desert family is proposing an outdoor recreational facility right next to the Ninja Cafe. We have video arcades and a gym and stuff like that. So the kids can do paintball and archery and maybe kick a ball around on the soccer field. I would respectfully suggest, if you have an open lot of land, that's zoned heavy industrial, owned by a developer who has the resources to develop, it heavy industrial, and come here and say, I want to build a factory, some heavy industry thing, or I want to build an office building. And he's saying, you know what? This is right next door to the Ninja Cafe where the kids are going on trampolines and they're going to gym and they're doing martial arts and they're doing ballet. And the kids go to the Ninja Lounge and they're playing and having a good time. I'm going to take this lot of land that's zone industrial and I'm going to leave it wide open. I'm not going to develop it industrial. I want to put an outdoor recreational facility so kids and the families in your community can stay in the community, and they could come from school, they could come from daycare, they could come from the Ninja Cafe, from ballet and martial arts, and they could do paintball and archery and maybe kick a ball around and do wonderful recreational usages. Now at the DRC level, at the development review level, you know, our architect is developing a more detailed site plan addressing the landscaping and the parking and all of those issues. So we have a Joe Dobos in Fort Lauderdale. He's an architect and he's been retained, and at the DRC level he'll be submitting a site plan which will be available to deal with any on a minute level, deal with some of the specifics that the staff has asked him to deal with. But the only purpose tonight is to ask you to approve and lock in the use. The only reason we're here tonight, our only purpose is to say, give us permission to use this as an open field for children and families to do recreational things. And I can't imagine, and you know what? I'm glad your grandchild is there, because the Desert family is going to build something designed for your grandchild to go kick a soccer ball around and learn paintball and do archery. So now this wonderful child and the other kids can go and learn martial arts and ballet and go to the Ninja Cafe and have a shake and go to the video arcade and play on the trampoline. And then when they leave the Ninja Cafe, what are they going to see? Are they going to see a building, an office building, an industry? No, they're going to see an open soccer field and paintball and archery. It's perfectly compatible. It's perfect. And we're simply asking you to give us permission to give you a recreational facility for families, which is perfect. And at the DRC level, we'll have more details. I want to just mention a couple of things. Mr. Cook, the city manager, they did a phenomenal job. And the Desert family is here to say, we're here to fully thank the staff. You had us at hello. We're agreeing to all staff recommendations. So Mr. Desert said, whatever Mr. Cook wants, we're agreeing to it tonight. We agree to all the staff recommendations. We're going to do what they want. You had us at hello. I would just point out a couple of things I'd like to highlight while I'm here. I would note that if you look at page 3, if you look at the permitted usages, among the permitted usages, the things you're allowed to do under the comprehensive master plan is nonprofit neighborhood social and recreational activities, number 8. Number 9, entertainment. Number 7, parks and open space. So if you look at page 3 under the usages, open space, recreational facilities, entertainment, they just want to do exactly what you want them to do and what your goals are. They're going to do what you want them to do. So I would note that if you look at the site plan, if you look at the the staff report.
We've got you, Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Pitt, thank you. Thank you. You sold that.
Do I got it?
Yeah.
Are we you're going to let us do it? You're going to let us do something for the kid? Thank you.
We understand it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much.
We're ready to go.
We're tired.
We got it, Michael.
Thanks for saving the best for last.
There you go.
Really?
All right, all right.
And there'll be no drive-throughs there. Absolutely not.
Okay.
It's not permitted.
All right.
They can bring their lunch.
Okay, and I know the two young ladies, you're there for it. So in essence of time, I'm just going to ask, if you don't mind. Okay, well, no, we
Open and
can't go
close it.
that way.
Okay. No, you got
We're
it.
open and close public forum. I see our city attorney, our attorney has a question, has his hand up. So you have something to say with regards to the item.
Yes, so I understand that staff has allowed the application to go forward without the submission of a formal site plan. It's not my role to say otherwise. It was a staff decision. I would just point out to the board that one of the requirements of the code is to submit a site plan at this stage in the process. What that does, it provides an opportunity for this board also to provide input into the site review process. So by approving it without a site plan, you are deferring to the, the Development Review Committee to complete that review. And so I just wanted to point that out. I feel if I would be negligent in my duties if I didn't make that point.
And unless my colleagues on the board have no clue of what these places look like, because they're generally like cookie cutters the same way that it is. My only thing is that I saw that you plan on having a temporary trailer as your office. It's just that trailers eventually deteriorate and looks bad. So, you know.
Yeah, we're willing to remove that from the application going forward to the DRC. So I will say for the record, we're yes to everything. So we will remove the trailer, and we just want to go forward and build something for the kids.
All right, well, I don't have any more other question.
Make a motion to
Wait, wait.
approve? Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Mr. Cook.
If I may, Chair, not to belabor the point, because of the size of the project, this will also have to go to City Council as part of
That's
review.
fine.
So-
No, that is fine. Okay, so, Mr. McDermott?
Yeah. Now?
Yes.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Can I make a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. McDermott, seconded by Mr. Gentil. Roll call?
Ms. Philippe?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Ms. Hill? Mr. Genty?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you
Pass
very
5-0.
much. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank
It's good to see you
you.
again, sir. How you doing? It's been a while.
Be taking my money.
Yes, you.
We both got a
you
little
had
more
us
gray
at
hair.
hello as well.
God bless. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Old business?
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Old business? New business? Okay, well.
Motion to adjourn.
Merry Christmas.
Move to
Happy
adjourn.
Hanukkah. Happy
to
Kwanzaa. Okay, all of it. Happy holidays. Okay, we're adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, it's been great.